Caroline is a health survivor and mineral enthusiast. On her own journey to health, Caroline found mineral replenishment to be a foundational element that is widely misunderstood. Her research into why minerals are important in human physiology and how they work in the body has taken her into a broad field of study, including microbiology, molecular biology, cellular biology, quantum physics, agricultural soil science, the study of plant decomposition, and glyphosate toxicity. As a result of her research, Caroline has become committed to helping people understand how and why mineral depletion affects the body, the systemic nature of glyphosate exposure, and specifically how plant-based humic and fulvic minerals can help support healing and optimal health. Caroline is an engaging speaker and a regular contributor to podcasts and health-focused events and programs around the world. Caroline is the co-founder and CEO of Beam Minerals.
Caroline, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be a part of your summit.
I was just saying before we started the video that when Penny and I first met, Beam Minerals were one of the first supplements, probably the first supplement she recommended for my pups. And what I loved about you and your product and what we're going to talk about today is this beautiful crossover between the human side and the pet side. So before we dig into all of the nitty gritty, I would just love to hear from you about how you started Beam Minerals and what led you to where you are and so passionate about what you do.
Yeah, well, it is a very serendipitous because if someone had told me I was going to be talking to you about minerals today, 10 years ago, I'd have been like, what are you talking about? But I was in the corporate world and I was kind of a top gun for hire in that world. And I burned out of that. And at that time I had flatlined adrenals. I had inflammation throughout my body, particularly in my mouth. I had really deep gingivitis and deep pockets I was really struggling there. I had sinusitis, like sinus infections constantly recurring. I had headaches many times every week. So I used Advil way too much. And I also had thyroid issues. So I had a lot of imbalance and a lack of homeostasis in my body, inflammation, a lot of problems. And my now business partner, Dan Howard, suggested that I try these minerals. And he had another business he was running where he sold essential oils and these. And I started taking them. And within 2 months, I went to my dentist and she looked in my mouth and she's like, oh my gosh, what's changed? The pH in your mouth has changed. Your tissue looks healthy. You have no more gingivitis. What are you doing? And I was like, well, I don't know. I guess it's these minerals. I'm taking these minerals. So that was the first sign that something was really different.
Wow. Well, I'm literally like speechless. That 2 weeks. No,
it was actually 2 months. Sorry, 2 months. Okay. 2 months still. So they're slower acting than like immediate, but even for me, I had been working on my mouth. I had gone to 3 different dentists and I was trying to heal that for 3.5 years prior to this. So she was, and I'd been working with that dentist for over a year and she was like, whoa, So then a couple months later, I went to my naturopath and I had been working on my adrenals. Last time I'd seen her, she wanted me to take hydrocortisone, a pharmaceutical. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But we did the test before I went in and I remember her opening the book and showing it to me and going, this is amazing. The hydrocortisone is really working. I said, I'm not taking that. And she's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I think it might be these minerals. So over a period of time, I just started feeling better and better. And all these things started to resolve. And so I started doing research. And that's where my mind just kind of went, whoa.
Love that moment.
The thing about minerals is most people think that they're really boring, like minerals, what? But I tell you, I think they are the most interesting and exciting thing. And once you start really getting it, once we get into this, I have a feeling other people are going to go, no way, no way. So, yeah.
Because so often you just go minerals and you hear vitamins and minerals. Take your vitamins and minerals, eat your fruit and veg, they're full of vitamins. And you sometimes go, oh, that's probably some vitamin C and maybe some vitamin, but you don't think so much about the minerals typically. As far as, I never did, it's like maybe think about calcium, but I was like, that's where I drew the line. So this is opening up minerals to become known as opposed to this sort of anonymous hanger-on in what we think we know about health.
Exactly. Or, it's so funny because sometimes I'll be in a grocery store, in a health food store, and I'll see people wandering the mineral aisle, picking up bottles and going, okay, there's this, and I should take some chromium, and maybe I need some potassium, some calcium, and I need some zinc. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry because here, you're going to take 20 pills a day, which don't work anyway, which is what I learned. So I went down the rabbit hole with minerals. And first I started to look into, well, how do minerals work in the body? And then I started looking at, well, why was I depleted in minerals? And then how does mineral replenishment work? So those are kind of the three pieces that I'd like to bring to your audience.
Yeah, can you just kind of give us the breakdown? I mean, it sounds like you got into the nitty-gritty, really understanding the role of minerals in the body and the mechanisms and all of that. But can you just kind of explain to us in layman's terms, like, what did you find? What did you learn?
Yeah, well, here's the cool thing. The cool thing is to think about minerals, what we have to do is we start with a paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift is, and before I even get into this, I want to tell the people who are listening that everything that I am saying is the same for a human, and it's the same for any animal. It's actually the same for plants. So the paradigm shift that we're going to do is we are cellular beings. When you're talking about minerals, you have to talk about cells. And we're used to thinking about our bodies like, oh, I have a heart and I have a kidney and I have a lung and I have endocrine systems and I have enzymes and I have hormones and we're used to thinking about chronic illness or disease as functions of a particular system or organ or a problem like cancer. Okay. Right. So the first thing that I like to say to people is, if you took all of the water out of your body, you'd be a little pile of minerals. Think about that. Your entire body is built on minerals. Right there, you're like, ooh, okay. And you have about 37 trillion cells in your body. A small dog might have 75 trillion. I mean, so you have, it depending on the size of your body, a very large man might have up to 150 trillion cells. I'm sorry, I didn't get those numbers right, but what I'm trying to say is you have a huge number of cells, and every single part of your body is made of cells, whether it's your brain, whether it's all of those enzymes, everything in your body is made of cells. And guess what drives your cells? Two things: minerals and amino acids. Every single thing in your body is built from those, and every piece of energy, like the fact that I'm talking and moving my hands and you're nodding, and the thoughts that are happening and you're looking at me and those processing that's happening so you can even understand what you're seeing, all of that happens inside your cells using minerals and amino acids inside what we call the mitochondria. I think people in the biohacking space have heard of this word, but the mitochondria, it is the energy generating unit of your body or system of your body. And it requires two things: amino acids, some of which your body makes, some of which you have to ingest, but all the minerals, you have to ingest them. Your body doesn't make any. So right there, can you just kind of get did you ever even think about that?
It's a really important point that we literally cannot make them ourselves. We have to ingest them. We have to, right? Because you can't breathe them in, you can't put them on topically, right? It has to be ingested digested, absorbed. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. And assimilated. So, and then we'll get into that, which is such an interesting piece. So, yeah. So the problem is that we're all depleted. Your pets are depleted. The plants that, the plants that are grown in production farming, those are all depleted of minerals because the soil is depleted of
Oh, yeah.
minerals. So the entire system gets depleted, and we are part of that system. And the thing about a cell that doesn't have enough minerals, it can only generate about 1/12 of the energy, 1/12. And what most experts say that modern humans have about 30 to 37% of the minerals in their body that they need for optimal functioning.
Is that
Whoa.
all?
That's
Just
right, under 40%. And I'm not talking about third world countries where it's even more. I'm talking about first world countries,
so
modern.
this is why energy, people say, I've got no energy, I'm lethargic, I'm tired, I have to have a nap in the day, I don't have the stamina to keep doing what I used to do. This is the root cause of that.
But then, Penny, you also hear people say, oh, it's because I'm getting older. It's because we're
Yeah,
experienced.
they excuse it. They just permit it.
It's the norm because everyone's tired.
Exactly. So the way I like to have people think about it is if you have a light in your house that has a dimmer on it, just dim it down to half. Just dim it down to half. That's the output that you're putting out when you're mineral depleted. Only in some cases, less than half of the energy that could be generated in your body is being able to be generated. Imagine that. Now, one.
So soil's depleted, which means that the food that we're eating is depleted because they're not getting it from the soil. Are there other factors, though, lifestyle factors that deplete it more, that might even increase our need for more, which makes it even harder to get it because so it's like we're not getting it, but then we're also using it more? Does that vary how much we use?
So there are several things that are exacerbating mineral depletion. Number one is, what are we all doing? We're drinking filtered and bottled water. It has no minerals in it. They've been taken out. So our parents didn't drink filtered water. They drank water, tap water mostly when I was a kid and we went hiking, we drank right out of the stream. Of course you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. But still, you were getting minerals in the water. So that's first of all. Second of all, as we said, the food supply is depleted of minerals, is mineral deficient. And third, we're all getting glyphosates. And this is a piece that we don't have to go into in depth, but GMO foods have glyphosate in them. And do you know how that glyphosate kills a weed? It sucks the minerals out of it. So when you have glyphosates in your system, it pulls out very important minerals like iron, molybdenum, chromium. It takes these minerals out of your system. So these are some of the key reasons that we're all mineral deficient. And then if you put on top of that a lifestyle where you're a performance athlete, so you're constantly going to the gym, working really hard, sweating. And I don't know a single performance athlete doesn't have a problem with hydration or just feeling regenerated when they're in an intense training cycle.
Yeah, that's so interesting because you forget that salts are part of that as well, or it's easy to forget that salts are part of that and our electrolyte balance. And then that is how your brain is going to be operating. The cascade is enormous because when you're starting at that one level of the cell, you can see how it affects absolutely everything. So while you were saying before, you have a lot of sympathy for these people who are standing in the aisles of the supermarket thinking, I need some minerals. Okay, I guess I'll have this one and some of all of those. And that's not working. Could you explain why that's not working and then why beam minerals do?
Yeah. So, and this is the next big piece that is it just literally, this is probably the reason that I'm here today, because when I learned about this, I was like, why don't people know this? We should have all learned this. Instead of talking about vitamins, talk about minerals. So the thing about the way your body replenishes minerals is it's actually the way all nutrients get into your body, but there's this buzzword and it's called bioavailability. I think we've all heard about it and you see it places, right? But what I like to do is break it down for people because it will change not only where you're going to get your minerals, it'll also change your way of thinking about what you're putting in your mouth and how you're giving nutrition to your body. So bioavailability has 3 stages, and the first is digestion. Most of us think we know that, right? The second is absorption, and that means getting the nutrients that have been digested into your bloodstream. And the final one is assimilation, and that's getting it from the bloodstream into the cells. And the most important thing about minerals is almost all the minerals do not do their job unless they get inside the cells. So you can maybe digest them, hopefully, we'll talk about that, and you'll maybe absorb them. We can talk about the challenges there, and then you might actually assimilate into the cell a very, very small percentage. So unless all 3 of those stages of bioavailability are present, you might as well just flush it down the toilet, you know? So when you go to the aisle and you take a pill, when you take a pill, first it has to be digested because it's powder and your body has to break it down. Now, when you think about most mineral supplements that are made from rocks, shells, bones, those things don't digest very, your digestive tract is not actually very adapted to digest those things, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, that's
right.
not our normal diet, is it? So
Right. No,
we don't have the ability, and probably our microbiome doesn't either.
We can digest a very small part. And digestion, that's the other thing, is digestion means they have to be broken down into their what are called ionic components, small enough to be absorbed. And it's their chemical components. Okay. So then we talk about absorption. So let's say just that digestion process, when you take a pill, you only ever digest maybe 20% of what you take. So that's why they have these minimum RDAs, daily requirements that are, like they take 320 milligrams of magnesium or something, but you only ever digest, you might take that much, but you only ever digest maybe 20% of that.
That's shockingly low, isn't it?
I know, it's shocking. Yeah. So then the next stage is you have to get that into your bloodstream. So the way it works is in your lining of your gut is these finger-like structures. They look like fingers, and they're lined with these cells called epithelial cells, and each one of those cells is lined with these receptors. And this is the key piece of information you have to understand, is every single receptor is specific. It's not like you've got all these receptor sites that are just general, they take up anything. No, you've got a huge amount of calcium and magnesium and potassium and sodium, but you have very few, but very important ones for molybdenum and other kinds of things. I mean, I never knew these things. Have you ever had that experience of learning about that?
No. Most people aren't even. Sorry, go ahead, Benny.
I was going to say, certainly the lock and key receptor sites with proteins and hormones and things like that. But that's another whole sort of grade of specificity to say, not just one cell, but one tiny receptor, and the mineral that's coming down your system has to be already broken down into the right kind of form to be the ionic structure to be attracted to that, and then find its little perfect match. It's like those penguins, in Antarctica, when they come back and they've got to find their mate in amongst 500 million penguins standing on the ice floe.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great metaphor. That's fantastic. Yes.
And somehow they do. So how can we make that happen in our body so we can bring the mineral penguin to the receptor penguin?
Exactly. And so the structures that we have now, or our knowledge base now, is go to the mineral aisle in your supermarket or your health food store, and buy 20 pills and just slam a whole bunch of pills every day. Okay. But first of all, most of that, you're actually creating a huge amount of work for your body because your body has to get rid of all that stuff that didn't get digested. It has to actually be eliminated. So now you've put your body into an elimination process. At the same time, you're trying to uptake and absorb things. So it's actually really, so minerals work in balanced pairs. So when you start putting huge amounts, huge in terms of 320 milligrams into your gut, you're creating imbalance. So this is one of the biggest pieces. So then so now let's say you've gotten these minerals into your bloodstream through absorption. And the other thing we have to mention is that most of people who are struggling with any kind of gut problems may have malabsorption issues, right?
I was gonna say just that like that's the ideal scenario, is that you're able to digest them, but most people, their digestion's not working properly, like
Exactly.
or not optimally, right?
Exactly. Yeah, their enzymes, they don't have enough, the enzymes aren't established well, et cetera. I mean, there's so many reasons. And one of them is glyphosates, because what do glyphosates affect? They affect the same thing that creates celiacs and gluten intolerance. Hence, we have a huge rise in gluten intolerance. So, now, but let's say we did get some minerals into our bloodstream. That's great. Now we have to get them into the cells. So the problem is, you've heard of this word flavonoids. A lot of, but what is a flavonoid? A flavonoid is something that can be a carrier and carry things through the cell wall. So you've got all these cells and you need to get the minerals from your bloodstream just hanging out in the general space into the cell. And a flavonoid is what supports that. So we eat all these superfoods. That's cool. It's a good start. But what we really want to do is use something that's a super powerful flavonoid to carry those minerals into the cell. And that's where we're gonna, that's where my hands start. So excited, because this is the most cool thing, is that Mother Nature provided the magical and amazing natural tool for mineral replenishment for all cellular systems on Earth. And it's called plant-based minerals. That's not an oxymoron.
It
Most
does.
people
You
think of
think
minerals
that
as
game,
rocks, right?
animal, vegetable, mineral. You think, hang on a minute, how can it be a plant mineral?
Exactly. And this is where we get into, so we kind of talked about this bioavailability thing. First of all, your body cells, and then you've got to get minerals into the cells where they can actually generate energy with amino acids inside the mitochondria. So now we get to talk about how do we like supercharge that replenishment system, instead of going to the mineral aisle and having to take 20 pills, or drinking powders that you put in water, or electrolyte drinks and all those kinds of things that don't really work well.
So what is it about the plant-based minerals that make them so different? I mean, you mentioned, right, our body's not meant to digest rocks. Okay, that makes sense. But how do these exist in plants, and why do we usually think of minerals as coming from a different source?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm going to say, imagine an entire rainforest back when the dinosaurs lived. And that entire rainforest decomposed over millennia into this incredibly mineral rich substance. When I do this, I do a presentation at conferences and things, and I show, it's like a video of plant matter getting broken down, and it's really cool. You see worms and you see all these little bugs and you see all these things, and they're eating the plants and they're excreting, and then something's eating their excretion, and then something else eats that bug, and it gets down to the microbe level, very, very small. And over time, it ends up it's black, incredibly rich mineral substance, and it's called humate. And humate it's exists in different places around the earth, and it has two components, and I call these like these are the mineral replenishment, like superpowers of the world. Okay. And they're called humic and fulvic, two components. Okay. They're very different, but they occur everywhere together. You've seen maybe a pond, and the pond is dark brown, the water in the pond, that is humic.
Right.
That's actually humic. Okay, but there's also fulvic in there because they exist everywhere you find humic, you find fulvic. Everywhere you find fulvic, you find humic. And in fact, they're being studied around the world because they have some really magical qualities that we'll talk about. So the first one I'd like to talk about is fulvic. And have you guys ever heard of humic and fulvic?
Yes.
You have.
Yeah, but I think that probably most people listening haven't, unless they've heard us talk about it.
Well, I think what's going to happen is people are going to start to hear about humic and fulvic much more. And so you can buy some fulvic waters, and you're going to start seeing it. But fulvic, it's a very small molecule. It's much smaller than a cell. It hangs out in the bloodstream. It has some really cool qualities. One, it is the most effective flavonoid you can put in your body. Okay. Like, it's incredibly, it has a super strong electrical charge to it. So things cling to it, all those minerals and nutritional elements, and it carries those through the cell wall. And then it does something that no other molecule on Earth does. It can change its polarity. It's the only molecule they know that can, most molecules that have a charge, and that's it. They don't change their polarity. So it goes into the cell and it changes its polarity, and those things drop off inside the cell. And now it has a positive charge, and all the negatively charged ions, which are the bio waste, the toxins, the heavy metals, cling to it, and it carries those out of the cell. And then it drops those off in the bloodstream. Now, of course, those things are in the bloodstream. So now we have the humic molecule. The humic molecule is a very large molecule relative to a cell. Again, a very strongly charged electrolyte, and it gathers bio waste, and it clings to the free radicals in your system. It's like, as an antioxidant, it's thousands of times more effective than any superfood or anything you can take. It also keeps the glyphosate in your system. It inhibits its effects because it actually creates a film around the glyphosate, and it actually breaks it down, and ultimately that molecule, that humic molecule, gets so heavy at a molecular weight, it falls out of solution, and it like you have something that ends up on the bottom of your glass, like that, and it falls out of solution and leaves your body through the natural elimination channels. So here you have Mother Nature provided the most incredible replenishment tool, plus the most incredible detoxification tool, and they're just right there, ready for you to use.
Just there, 100% natural.
Wow. Can I ask, Caroline, because I've heard, and that fulvic and humic acids are really good for helping with glyphosate detoxification. Okay, I knew that part, did not know that mechanism, so that is so cool. But I have a question, because I've also heard, and I'm not super familiar with this research, that it's really that the fulvic and humic minerals are really helpful for leaky gut or intestinal permeability. Is that true? Or is it simply that it's getting rid of the glyphosate, which exacerbates or causes or contributes to leaky gut? Or is it actually helping to heal the gut lining?
Yes and yes. So first of all, because one of the main things that glyphosate toxicity causes is leaky guts, because it attacks the tight junctions, which we don't have to go into all that detail. It sounds like you have some good understanding of that. So just in remediating the effects of the glyphosate, it's helping with that leaky gut. But because the fulvic has this incredible anti-inflammatory capacity, because it's removing, so when you think about inflammation is usually in the tissue, right? And what are cells? Cells are the tissue.
Right.
Okay, so to remove inflammation, you have to remove the inflammation agents that are inside the cells and get them out in the bloodstream where they can now be removed by the humic. Does that give you a sense of the mechanism? Isn't it phenomenal?
It's like a I was going to say it's like Torval and Dean.
You know, I call it Mother Nature's mineral technology. It's a technology. When you start studying it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a grand design.
Yeah.
I just realized we haven't even, for folks who aren't familiar with glyphosate, which I would imagine that most people are, but can you just explain really quickly, what is glyphosate? For someone who's listening to this and is like, okay, this is scary. What's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, when I actually started studying this stuff, I didn't really know either. So I just want to let people know who don't really understand. You've heard the word glyphosate, oh yeah, whatever, or GMO. I didn't really know what that meant. Okay. So what GMO means, genetically modified foods, they were designed so that they can spray a weed killer on the food and the weeds will die and the plants will live. It's great for farmers because now they can go through and harvest all that food without having any weeds in it, particularly grains, but they also now do it with all sorts of different things, lettuce, all sorts of different things. Okay. So the problem is that the food, and they mix the glyphosate weed killer with something called adjuvants and surfactants. And those are trying to make it more bioavailable to the plants. So the problem is that also works in your gut and makes it more bioavailable to your system. Okay, so glyphosate is a weed killer. And the way it works is it sucks all the minerals out of the plant so the plant dies. And when it gets into your system, that's what it does in your system. It sucks specific minerals, copper, molybdenum, iron. There's another one I can't think of, out of your system.
And just so folks know, the brand name is Roundup. So folks using it at home, like it's not called glyphosate. So on the label. And unfortunately, I think it's over 90 or 95% of glyphosate usage is actually people at home, because when they use it on the farms, they don't have to use that much because they know how powerful it is, right? They're not going to waste it. But at home, you can get it in a spray can, you just shh, and that stuff also doesn't go away. Then it goes into our water supply, and now it's in our water supply. So it's really pervasive, and especially here in the States. And that's one of the, well, we don't have to go down the whole rabbit hole, but it's pervasive.
And there's a great book that if people are interested in reading, it's by Stephanie Seneff, and it's Seneff, and it's called, I think it's the Toxic Legacy is what it's called. And it'll tell you all about it. And the thing that I've been talking with Stephanie about is the systemic nature of it, because now I have glyphosate in me. And now I defecate and I urinate, and that goes down into the sewer. And now we have that in the water. I'm not even talking about the farm runoff or the runoff from you going out and spraying it and killing your weeds or your blackberries. Now it's in the water, and now it's and they found it at the North Pole, and they found it in Antarctica.
Whoa.
Yes. So it also is airborne. So I'm telling you, it's ubiquitous. And now, so what Stephanie and I've been talking about is this possibility of how can we potentially use humic to create some sort of break in this systemic issue. So
yeah, I mean,
but anyway, that's a whole, the trick is, for the thing I think I want to leave people with that are listening is, the best thing you can do today is don't ever use Roundup. First of all, look for other solutions. And if people are interested, they can contact me. We have other solutions available that we can tell you about. We're actually developing one to put out to the world. So we're working on that. And you can use the humic, so the plant-based humic molecules, as a way to support your body in remediating the effects and removing glyphosates from your system. In fact, what I believe after my research is that one of the reasons I got well was not only because I was remineralizing my system, but also because I was remediating the effects of the glyphosates.
And as a gut health dietitian, I'm just going to put a little plug here that this is really, really relevant if you have food sensitivities, because this often comes from the gut becoming leaky and then the proteins get into the bloodstream. And so if we heal the gut, we can tamper down that immune response to the foods that you're eating that are triggering you. And I've seen plenty of folks, I've experienced it myself, where once you heal the gut, you can actually reintroduce foods you couldn't eat before. So this is so relevant for basically everyone. And I'm actually wondering, can you kind of talk about this? Who might benefit from taking these plant-based fulvic and humic minerals? Because at this point, it kind of sounds like everyone.
You know, honestly, I actually do say everyone, and it's actually a challenge for us as a company, because each person is, I mean, like as an example, there's specific things for women. You know, if you're a woman and you have menstruation and you build your uterus wall every month, and you then have to let that go. And so there's a detoxification element of that. And then there's the physical building element of that. And if you have uncomfortable periods, that is mineral depletion. If you have menstruation cramping, that is mineral depletion. You know, if you're, you know, we talked about the performance athlete, but let's say lots of kids now that are running sports, they're now having cramping. They're coming off the field cramping. I don't remember ever seeing any kid that I knew when I did sports as a kid having cramping, but now lots of parents are saying my kids are cramping. It's because they're drinking bottled water, they're drinking filtered water, and the food is depleted of minerals, and they're getting glyphosates. So then we have women, we have performance, we have people who are doing, you know, intermittent fasting or doing low carb. It's of course really even more important to get more micronutrients. People who do low carb get fewer micronutrients in their food. So it's really important to supplement. So yeah, it goes, I really say if you're living in the world today and you're eating from the supermarket, not going out in the woods and foraging, then you need minerals. And if you're foraging, you probably need minerals anyway, because foraging is a really hard job. Just watch that. Have you ever watched that show called, it's called like Alone? Have you ever seen that?
Yes. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yeah.
And it's so interesting when you watch the show, and when somebody, let's say they catch a fish and they say they got this many calories, and they got these minerals, and they got this vitamin, they talk about, it always comes down to the minerals.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, because they're essential for life, like you said.
And the reason people go home on that show is because they were depleted of minerals. It's always like they're having these symptoms because they're depleted of electrolytes, minerals, salts. Yeah.
So I have a question about what's actually in terms of the different minerals that are in there, because if you go to a grocery store or your health food store or a supplement store, whatever, you look at the label and it says magnesium citrate 200 milligrams, right? In each bottle or each container is going to say what it is and the milligrams, right? The dosage. You have to do that, right? But this is different because the minerals are within, like if you look at the label, it's not all broken down because they're kind of within it, right? Can you explain that?
I can, yes. So, and this is again the paradigm shift. So, you know, this is partly because of marketing, but it's also because of science, and it's also because of a lack of understanding about minerals and really thinking about how they work in the body, how they're replenished, et cetera. So we now have all these pills out there, and a doctor will tell an older woman, oh, you need to take calcium, oh, you need to take magnesium, oh, you need to, and then they're looking through the aisle, well, should I take calcium citrate or whatever, right? So the thing, if you think about, again, your body, if you take the water out, you're going to be a pile of minerals. Okay, now pick up a handful of really healthy, vibrant, thriving dirt, and all of Mother Earth is in it. Okay, all the minerals. So when you think about this humate material that plant-based minerals came from, that entire rainforest that decomposed into that incredibly mineral-rich substance, it has all the minerals that you are made of in it. You don't need to actually add any other things. Okay,
And
so
presumably as well, they're all in the correct balance for, you know, the levels that are natural, the levels that sustain life. So if you need more of this, that's already there. If you need less of that, the balance is that. So taking humic and fulvic minerals then is a one and done, because you get everything at the
in
right
the
level.
right balance, yes. So that's, you know, actually in some ways had never really thought about it that way until you said it, and it's absolutely correct. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So, so the difference is we're told, you know, to listen to a doctor, and the doctor says, take this, you know, take that, and now I'm taking 20 pills or whatever. And what I'm saying is Mother Nature's already, as you're saying, Mother Nature's already designed it. All you need to do is give yourself a full spectrum of all these minerals in very micro amounts on a daily basis. So imagine it more like you're infusing your gut with this huge amount, 70 plus minerals. And actually, there's amino acids because there were dinosaurs and bugs and animals that died in that huge rainforest as well. So there's amino acids in there, and there's also vitamins in there. Several different vitamins in there. So I'm not saying you shouldn't take any vitamins separate from from mineral supplements, but there are some B vitamins in particular. So what the paradigm shift is, rather than trying to hack your body by adding all these different things and creating this imbalance, instead you're going to infuse your system with this really small micro amounts of completely ionized minerals. Now, this is where our products come in that make them so cool. So if you took some humate and you just took some very finely powdered humate and you ate that, or put it in a pill and ate that, that would still have to be digested. Now, it is much more digestible than many of the other supplements, so it's a good place to start. And we actually have a humate capsule for when you travel, or a humic, but an even better way is to take liquid. So the you know, you talk there when people are taking minerals, oftentimes we get a question from people, well, what kind of potassium is in your minerals? What kind of magnesium? What kind of calcium? Because people have been told they should take particular types, like, I don't know, you probably know which ones you're supposed to take, right? I don't even pay attention to that. And what I see is, no, you don't get it. When you take our minerals, you're just getting calcium, like the base. You're just getting magnesium. You're just getting potassium. It's not potassium citrate. It's ready to be. It's completely ionized down to the chemical component, potassium.
It's
Isn't that
almost like
interesting?
it sounds like you're saying it's almost like a mineral version of a stem cell. So a stem cell is the base, and it can become what the body needs it to be. So here we've got potassium as the blank slate almost, that
Yes.
can become whatever type of potassium the body needs it to be to fully function. Is that an equivalent
That is
analogy?
exactly. That's very well
Okay.
said.
I
Yes.
mean, I love your analogies.
I love it. So rather than thinking that we're so smart, we're going to give our body what it needs, calcium citrate or whatever, you know, instead, we're going to allow our body in its infinite wisdom, because the complexity of the digestion process and the absorption process and the assimilation process is beyond anything we can even think through, right? It's so complex and has so many factors. So instead, we're just going to infuse the system with the components it needs to replenish the minerals. Not only the minerals themselves, but the transportation tools via those highly powerful fulvic flavonoids.
So
Oh yeah, go on.
I'm loving this conversation, and it's so funny that you said that about the form, because I've wondered this since I've used your product. Like, okay, but what type of magnesium? So I'm so glad you said that, because I'm in that mindset too. When you're supplementing, you have to pick the right kind, right? I mean, magnesium is a great example. Do you need it as a laxative because citrate or oxide is best? Do you need it to go to sleep because bisglycinate and threonate's best? But you're saying no.
So now here's an
Make it simple.
Yeah.
yes. So now here's the even more cool thing about our mineral supplements. So, and particularly we have two supplements, and one is called fulvic. It's a electrolyze, and it's a fulvic supplement. So it carries those 70 plus minerals, all those minerals you need, and it carries them just in the fulvic molecule. So the cool thing about it is that when you drink it, it starts absorbing through the tissues of your mouth, your esophagus. By the time it hits your stomach, your body is already utilizing some of that mineral content.
Wow.
That's how quickly it absorbs. Fulvic is, you can spray fulvic. We have a fulvic spray that's incredible for all sorts of things, muscle soreness, cramping, menstrual cramping, headaches, go on. Yeah.
Caroline, is this the one that has, which is the one that has the lavender in it?
Oh,
Because
oh, I don't have one of those. That one is called Boo Boo Lights.
yes, does that have the fulvic in it?
It does.
Okay, here, my husband got poison oak a few weeks ago, and it was spreading like crazy, and everyone had a different idea of what he needed to put on it, right? And of course, Dr. Google's of no help, right? But everyone's like, oh, try this. And nothing was working, and everything was just really irritating it, and it was miserable. Like he literally couldn't sleep at night because it was all over his leg. And I was like, try this, because I had the Boo Boo Lights, which I actually got for my dog's hot spots back when she was really itchy. Penny had actually introduced me to it. And so I had it, and I was like, give this a try. Like, it can't hurt. It was the only thing that gave him relief. And not only that, it suddenly started to heal. He used the whole bottle in like 2 days. He kept it by our bedside, and he would wake up at night and just lather his legs with it. And it started to heal, and it gave him relief.
So I really wish he would go on our website and write a little review about that, because that would be so cool. It's Boo Boo Lights is also incredible for bug bites, for any kind of skin irritation, or like if you got a scrape. Also, it's actually incredible for women's parts that get irritated as well. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah.
So that's so fascinating, because I was thinking, okay, obviously it was relieving some of the symptoms, but what you're saying is just literally working on a cellular, because it's getting in through the skin and can be absorbed that way. And most vitamins and minerals you can't absorb through the skin unless there's a couple specific ones if they're formulated in certain ways, but that's pretty rare. Exactly. But is it because the size of the fulvic is so tiny that it gets in immediately?
Exactly. So I have this spray here, and when I spray this on, I spray it on and I rub it on, it's already going to work. It takes like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. It's already absorbed in. It's actually starting its detoxification process, which is going into the cells. Remember, it's delivering the minerals, and it's removing those inflammatory agents.
And I actually use that spray just before I go to bed. So I give my face, after my face is washed, I give my face a mineral spray. It dries very quickly, but then I'm on the pillow, and it doesn't rub off onto the pillow, and in the morning, wake up, do the same thing, start the day. And so
it's also great for it has so many uses. We're actually, yes, we have so many ideas for helping people understand how to use it, because there's a lot of really effective ways to use fulvic. And in fact, fulvic is being studied around the world. They're studying about it in pharmaceutical worlds because it's such a great transporter.
Yeah. Can we change direction just for a little bit? Because I'm feeling like this is giving so much new and exciting information to people, but I want to say, hey, this works in animals too. Yes. This is where I started with Be Minerals, was providing it for my pets and for my clients who were low in energy. They were lethargic. They were, oh, they're just aging, they're old now. They don't do this anymore, and they might have had dull coats or specific illness. It doesn't matter, because you're affecting at the cellular level. It's going to have amazing and profound effects. So I would start off by, and this is what I love, because it's a liquid, there's no forcing a pill down a cat's throat. There's no hiding it in the food and then finding it hidden somewhere in the garden where they, pretend to swallow it and didn't. It goes straight in and goes to work straight away. And so I'd put it down a bowl of plain water, and I'd put down a bowl with minerals in it. So it's pour it in, and it's now sort of effectively mineral water. And I'd put it there and I'd say, which one do you want to have? And every time I did this experiment with my animals, with friends' animals, with clients, they make a beeline straight for the minerals, and they seem to know that they're depleted and that that's going to make them better. Can you just tell us what you know about how this works in animals?
Yeah. Well, and I also want to just underline what you said. We've actually done this as we're working on agricultural products, where you take our product, you put the liquid, you put it on an area of a field where sheep are, grazing, and they all go to the mineral area, and that's the only place they want to eat. So this is, animals really know this. Okay. So,
and it's worth saying that it doesn't have a flavor or a taste.
Right.
So it's not they're being drawn to sugar or, right, it's the minerals.
Exactly. It's not like it has, if it's a dog, it's not like it has, how they have all the supplement, different things that have meaty flavors or whatever.
Yeah, fake bacon flavor.
Yeah, for cats or whatever. It has no flavor. So it's definitely not something about the flavor. I mean, they can smell it. They have such great olfactory system, but so again, think about your pets. They're cellular beings too. So the way, everything that we talked about, the way it works in the human body is the way it works with your pets. The thing I want to also tell people about pets is, you take and it's of course less for an indoor cat, although a lot of the pet food that people are getting, and, I'm sure that your clients are probably people who really care about their pets, but lots of pets don't have great food supply, and it is glyphosate ridden food. Okay. Really, it's not the best. So, because people don't think about that. Most people don't. So, first of all, their food supply has more glyphosates. Second of all, it has less minerals. And if you take your dog for a walk down the street, and the dog is sniffing under bushes and wherever along the road, guess what they spray over there to keep the weeds down? Glyphosate. So your dog ends up getting way more exposure to glyphosates than you do. If you have cats that are outdoors, they really get much more glyphosate exposure than we do. So,
and they're smaller bodies as well, which means it takes less of an input dose of that toxicity to cause serious problems in their body. And then, of course, their lifespan is shorter generally than ours as well. So they've got less time available to them to get that back out of them. So there's a real urgency to thinking about your pet's exposure to glyphosate in particular in this case, but also their grooming. At least we're protected by their clothes. And so if I rub up against a bush as I'm walking that happened to get sprayed, I'm probably fine. But the dog or cat, then they're going to lick that later on. And now it's in their system as well.
That's exactly right. Or if you've ever seen your dog licking its paws, it's like, think about it, all of the potential environmental toxins that they're getting. And again, remember that it's not only glyphosates, because they're also getting lots of lead and lots of different things, just, exhaust dust from if you've ever gone outside and realize, oh my gosh, a lot of that's lead. So you really, the humic is incredible for chelating heavy metals, incredible. So, and I just also want to mention, if anybody's interested in any scientific studies, I have a wonderful compilation of studies. If you want to make it available to your people, I'd be happy to provide it for people who really like to geek out and learn more. Yeah. Oh, I haven't sent that to you yet. I'm so sorry. I will definitely get that to you. It's so interesting. I also I want to mention just because, well, no, I'm not going to mention that because I don't want to be a fear monger. So I just really want people to consider that there is help for the glyphosate toxicity issue, and it is humic minerals.
And you
It
can
also
literally,
sounds like there's solution for that heavy metal toxicity as well. So there's
Yes.
multiple levels of when you've got a mineral that's able to pull out the toxins and drop out of suspension and then just gently leave the body the way nature intended, then you're going to be able to get rid of a whole host of nasty things, not just one particular glyphosate chemical. But and then on the flip side, you've got the delivery system. So it's this amazing synergistic 2-for-1, completely gentle, natural. I mean, I love it. And the animals love it too. And that's that they're not going to lie. They're not going to turn around and say, oh yeah, I'm going to pretend to like it. Or they're always honest.
Exactly. And we also, we're in the process of also developing products for plants. So, these plants behind me, they all get our minerals every day. And so we're actually about to put out a whole set of products that's for house plants and then also for gardening, for soil amendment, for kind of beefing up your and we've done amazing tests with a microgreen producer here so we can actually show what happens when you use the minerals, and you won't believe when you see
Yeah, wow.
the actual photography of it. It's markedly different.
I want to talk about dosing and how and when to take it, but I have a quick question, which is the minerals, the minerals that people are getting on the day-to-day are from the foods that they're eating, right? But do those foods have fulvic and humic minerals too? Like obviously it has the magnesium and it has those, but are those present there? And I guess I'm kind of answering my own question. It's probably dependent on what's in the soil, right? We know our soils are depleted in part because of the use of like glyphosate and the monocropping and the whole, not to get into all that, but
Well, let me clarify. So people, when I say plant-based minerals, they think, well, I'm going to eat plants to get plant-based minerals. But actually, plant-based minerals are from decomposed freshwater plants, specifically freshwater plants. Okay, so the reason you might get some fulvic in your, when you eat some lettuce is because there might be some little residue of that. But you're not necessarily getting it from the food. It's necessarily inside the foods.
okay.
Do you know what I mean?
So if
You'll
you're
get
not,
other
and most of us,
minerals, you're going to get other minerals. Like, so
right.
think of it this way. If you have mineral rich soil that's got fulvic and humic, now what that allows the plant, the same as your body, to absorb and assimilate more minerals so that now when you eat the food, it's more nutrient dense. And now that is absorbed in your body because you've put fulvic and humic in your body. So now you supercharge your assimilation, your absorption and assimilation engine. And actually digestion, by removing the inflammation, you actually then create more opportunity for healthy absorption in your gut as well.
It's such a beautiful system, isn't it? Nature is just so smart.
Isn't it? When you talk about that word dose, so I want to actually, again, I don't want to use that word. And this is part of the paradigm shift. So doctors think about dosage because they think they're smart enough to tell your body that it needs 320 milligrams of whatever. So you're going to say the dose is this. And, but the three of us are different. The size of our bodies are different. We have different needs. Like everybody is different. Okay. So we don't talk about dose because what we're doing is we're infusing the system with the full spectrum of minerals that are necessary. And now your body and its infinite wisdom is going to go, oh, there it is. I need this. Oh, I need this now. Oh, there it is. Oh, I need this. Oh, there it is. And now it's all available. And that's totally different than thinking about, so we do have a recommended amount of our different minerals. So again, we have these two products. One is called Electrolyze, which I mentioned, that's the fulvic one. And the other is called MicroBoost. And MicroBoost is the humic supplement. And we have them separated for reasons, partly because if you're a performance athlete and you sweat a lot and you're in an intense training cycle, you'd probably want to take more fulvic, because fulvic is about energy generation in your body, because it's the tool that enhances the nutrient uptake into the cells. It's the transporter. So if you need a quick pick me up of electrolytes, forget the electrolyte drinks, forget taking LMNT powder and putting it in water, forget that. Doesn't work. But take an extra capful of electrolytes. And now your body in 3 seconds is already going to be beginning to utilize that electrolyte, the electrolytes inside that fulvic drink that you just took. No digestion required. So athletes that I work with who struggled with replenishment or feeling hydrated, keto people also, or low carb people can also experience hydration issues, but you give them electrolytes and they start going, oh my gosh, I finally feel hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the microboost, which is the humic component, the reason we have it separated, there's actually a technical reason, which has to do with it staying in suspension. We don't have to go into great detail there, but also it's because you can use it separately for things like if you feel a cold coming on, you take a little extra hit of microboost. And what does it do? It immediately starts working, removing those and making inhospitable environment for for viruses, and it really helps. Or let's say you go out and drink some wine with some friends. You come home and you take a quick half shot of microboost, you go to sleep and you woke up and you have no hangover. Or let's say
you've just sold 1,000 bottles right there.
Like, I'm
who has looked all their life for that cure?
I have this friend, and her husband is German and he loves to drink, and he's always like, let's have some schnapps, and let's have wine before dinner, let's have wine with dinner, and let's have, etc. And she could never drink because when she drank, she could not sleep at night. I mean, literally. So I was visiting and I had brought them some minerals and I said, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. So we gave her a shot of microboost and we drank. She had wine before dinner, wine with dinner. She had some schnapps afterwards. She went to sleep. She slept like a baby. And she woke up the next morning. She's like, you've changed my life. You've invigorated my marriage, because he always wants me to drink. And I don't know if it's good for her health, but how much more she'll drink, but it really, really, really works. So, yeah.
There's another point that you've just sort of touched on with the hydration that I want to bring to the front for a second. One of the biggest killers of our cats is chronic kidney disease. It's rampant in the pet side of cats, and it's barely existent in cats in the wild. So we know from that simple breakdown that this is an unnatural condition that our cats are being exposed to. And when you speak to a lot of conventional vets, they'll say, well, it's just normal, it's just part of the aging thing, it's just what cats get, and I didn't like that answer, which is why I started investigating this. But the big problem, of course, is that the lack of hydration. So cats are not free drinkers the way dogs are free drinkers. They don't just sit there and guzzle out of the water tap. In the wild, they get the majority of their moisture, their liquid, their hydration from their prey, because obviously they've just caught a mouse and the mouse is made up of 70% moisture. And so then they've got their moisture. And so when we feed cats a processed diet or a dry diet, especially if it's kibble-based, then they're depleted their entire life of water. They're living their entire life in chronic state of dehydration.
Oh my gosh,
and
I
so
never knew that.
It's a simple cause and effect of where chronic kidney disease has come from. So to assist cats, whether they're on a fabulous species appropriate raw food diet, whether it's lightly cooked, whether they're mousing at themselves outside and catching things in the barn, or whether they're on, let's just say, junk food, I can see how the hydration effects of these minerals, be able to bring the water into the cells, is going to assist cats in protecting them against developing this horrendous disease.
Well, it might be interesting also that if you put the minerals in the water, The cats might drink more of it.
Well, that's exactly what I did notice. You know, normally you put a bowl of water down and the cats will go, oh, what is it? Oh, yeah, that's fine. I'm not interested. I'll come back later when I think I might want a sip or two. But when I put those two bowls down in those experiments, they would all come over to check out what it was, sniff both of them, and then go back and drink from the mineral water bowl.
Isn't that interesting? That is astounding. That's so cool.
So if we could use, you know, prevention is always better than cure, right? And so I try and teach people who have their cats and love their cats to say, if you are not proactive about this, there's a very strong likelihood that this disease is going to manifest at some point, but we can prevent that with understanding what's causing it, removing that. But now this seems like another tool in the toolkit to just give a little bit more of that protective suit of armor, make sure that their bodies do stay hydrated. And therefore the kidney is not constantly under strain so much that it conks out first.
Well, and that's so interesting because, you know, if you're saying that doesn't happen with cats in the wild, right? As much, right? So what we're really saying is this is deficiency. This is some deficiency or environmental toxin potentially, because it also could be from glyphosate exposure from foods that they're eating as well. So it could be both together. Because glyphosate just definitely renal failure is one of the health correlations with glyphosate toxicity. Absolutely. In fact, there's lawsuits associated with that.
Yes.
So if you think about that, and you think about providing these minerals to the cats, this is the same with humans, which is what I say is the body is a homeostasis engine. Your body, your cat's body, knows how to heal itself when it is provided the energy and the tools to do it. So when you think about providing this full spectrum of minerals so that now, even if 80% of the cells in the body have what they need, that's turning that light up from 1/2 or 40% up to 80%. You've doubled the amount of homeostasis generating capacity of your body or your pet's, your cat's body to actually do what it naturally does, which knows how to deal with whatever it's, you know, whatever's happening. It's like, oh, you've got inflammation. Okay, bring all this blood. Well, it knows how to do so many things when we provide the foundational building blocks. Yeah.
It's interesting to think that our pets innately know how much they need, right? So I also do the same where I have a bowl of filtered fresh, and then I have a bowl with both the microboost and the electrolytes mixed in. I've never offered them like 3 separates. They're always mixed in. And they'll alternate between, especially if it's hot out or if we've just gone for a walk, they'll come in and they'll automatically go for the minerals. But as humans, we don't quite have the same innate knowledge. And I love that you're giving examples of when needs might be higher. Is it also fair to say that if you're starting a routine of including this into your, you know, let's say water first thing in the morning or however you're incorporating into your routine, that it might make sense to start with more because you've been so deficient and then go to like a maintenance amount? How do you think about that? Because I know some people are going to say, okay, but like tell me how much I should take.
So what we say with our liquid minerals, and again, the beauty of our minerals is that they taste like water. And I don't know if you've ever tasted any other liquid minerals, but liquid, yeah. And other liquid plant-based minerals. I mean, whenever there's some other products I won't name that are liquid plant-based minerals, even fulvic supplements and stuff, and they taste terrible. And that is the beauty of our proprietary process, is that it creates these minerals that are so easy to drink. And I feel like one of the reasons I got so well is I would wake up in the morning and I hate taking supplements, and I'd be like, ooh, I want my minerals. Ooh, I'd like to take a drink. Ooh, I want that. Like I was like the cats, like, ooh, yeah, okay, I'll have some, you know? So I think I'm going to say you might be surprised at how much people do know what their body wants. And you might actually pay attention and actually find yourself going, oh, I want that. Yeah, give it to me. We have stories of kids coming out and going, I want my minerals, little tiny, like 2-year-olds. They're like, minerals, pointing to them. Or this one guy, he had the purple and the green bottle, and the kid would come out and say, I want purple today. Today you'd want the green, so who knows? But my point is that there is a basic recommended amount that we suggest you take, which is a half an ounce. Now, it is true that most of us are toxified because we don't have enough flavonoids in our system, and we don't have we have very little humic or capacity for elimination. So if we do provide good like on our website and when you get the products, that you get a card with it that tells you how to get started. So I'm not going to describe the exhaustive thing, but the basics is, if you are extremely depleted, it is good to what I call mineral load your system, but you're going to only mineral load with the electrolytes, the fulvic. Okay. Because what you want to do is, imagine your light is dimmed down. What you want to do is re-energize the system. Give your system the ability to get those minerals into your cells and generate more energy via the mitochondria. So do that first. If you really are feeling depleted, if you're having energy issues, start with the electrolytes, and maybe go for a week and take even a full cap of that every day. Okay. And then start in with the humic, because the humic is about elimination and detoxification. And because probably in your nutrition world, even though the humic component is extremely gentle, I call it Mother Nature's janitor, because it just kind of works in the background, comes in, cleans the toilets, removes the crap, it gets rid of the recycling, it just cleans up always, constantly. But for some people, and if you have a very sensitive system, if you have autoimmune, if you've had Lyme's disease, if you tend to have what some people know of as Herxheimer responses, which is could be a histamine response, different kinds of things happen with people. And most people know if they're very sensitive, because they're the people who somebody says, take a pill, they cut it in quarters and they take a quarter, things like that. I'm one of those. So then if you're going to start with the humic, you just would put it in a 4-ounce glass of water, just drink it over 15 minutes. What you're just giving your system a little time to adapt. And you would maybe even start with, I know people sometimes call me because they'll say, oh, I'm having some funny thing. And I'll say, give me a call, and we have a chat. I also anybody can set up a call with me, and your listeners, and we can provide my Calendly link. Excuse me. I always allow people to, if they have questions, just give me a call. Or not just, you can't call at any time, but we'll set up a meeting. And because if you are a sensitive person, you just want to introduce it more slowly. That's all. Okay.
Well,
so,
that's incredibly
for most people. What?
Incredibly generous of you that you offer that for folks to connect with you directly. So thank you so much for that. And we'll also be providing a discount code for folks listening. I guarantee that most people are going to want to give this a go.
Yeah, whether they've got the cat that they want to protect, or whether they want to get rid of hangovers themselves, whether they're now worried about all there is so many reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you something? I just thought of that. So Penny introduced me to Bean Minerals specifically for my dogs. And, the micro boost, right, is the one that's the darker color, right? Mm-hmm. So you can see it in the water. It doesn't taste like anything. You see it in the water. Mm-hmm. The first time my husband saw me drinking it, he was like, why are you taking the dog supplements?
Well, and that actually is, it's so funny, because I heard of a woman in Canada. She called me, and she's actually feeding her horse agricultural humic and fulvic. And I do want to tell people, please don't do that. It's not a good idea. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but I would not do that. But, and we are actually about to release some specific we call it complete canine minerals and complete feline minerals. So you'll have, with some directions about how to use the minerals with your pets, with those particular ones. And it probably could be used for any pet. You would just adjust by weight, but anyway, so those are going to be coming out soon, just so you don't confuse your husbands that you're taking the pet's minerals. Or vice versa.
I think I should have introduced it in the other order, because now he's afraid to take it. He's like, aren't these for the dogs? And I'm like, anyway,
Yes.
Carolyn, I just time, and I feel like we've been talking for 5 minutes and it's been over an hour. So let's wrap this up so you can get on with your day. But this has just been so much fun and so insightful. And hopefully, no matter where folks are in their knowledge of this, they're having either setting that foundation or adding more to what they already know. But at the end of the day, you've made it super simple. Like you've made this product, and you have these incredible resources, your time, the resources on your website, just all of the above, so that folks can get started without feeling any kind of overwhelm. And I think that's really, really huge, because you can hear lots of information, but if you don't know those next steps, it's a little bit like, now what?
It's so true. And that's why I don't want to talk about, so many people talk about minerals, and then you're like, well, what should I take and how much and when and what form? And I'm like, no, we call it the shot that rings around the world. You just take a shot. That's it. You're done. Boom. That's it.
Yeah, you've actually simplified it for people, because I know a lot of people take different minerals and different supplements, and one liquid, easy to take.
Yeah,
and you can share
everything in it in balance, natural, doesn't taste bad. I mean, what's not to love?
You guys, thank you so much. It's been absolutely a blast to talk to you.
Before we wrap up, I just want to give you a time and space. If there's anything that we didn't talk about, or anything that's kind of speaking to your heart that you just want to land on today.
I just want to say to people, if there is anything you do for your health as you grow and develop and age, it's take minerals. Thank you.
Mic drop. Caroline, we will share all of those resources with folks, but for anyone who's listening, can you just say the name of your website or anywhere else that people can find you, and then we'll link it all up in the notes.
Yes, you can find us at beamminerals.com. We are also just now available on Amazon as well, if that's, or the US Amazon, if that's something that's important to you. Of course, we would rather you came to our own website, beamminerals.com. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for your time, wisdom, and just energy. This was such a fun conversation. We're gonna have to have you back on when you come out with the new products for pets.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.